Tuesday, the 27th of February, and there's no other big news than what is already on the social media and online around the world. This is, of course, still a breaking news as we get set for today's business day. Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics releasing the country's first post-recession GDP numbers for the fourth quarter and full year 2017. This is the biggest economic news since the new year started. These are the basics as we have it. Then we're going to start a round of conversations around these numbers as we break them today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week, taking us effectively into the month of March. GDP numbers, you can see there, Nigeria's gross domestic product. That means the total value of the entire economic and business and trade activities of the country. That's what the GDP stands for. It was a positive 1.9% year-on-year in the fourth quarter. That's the month between October and December last year. That's the big picture there. That's the quarterly picture. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, the real GDP, Nigeria grew 4.29%. And if you look at the other picture, let's change that now. You can see from a negative from 1.40 in third quarter of 2017, we grew 1.92. So which means the economy grew much faster in the final quarter of last year. But if you look at the GDP of a full year, and that's where the numbers was a little bit smaller than the fourth quarter. Nigeria's GDP for the full year 2017, 12 months, was 0.83% positive. That is, of course, better by 2.42% than the negative 1.58% that was posted by the country in the full year of 2016. So for full year 2016, it was a full year of recession, 1.58% GDP post, but we did 0.83% positive reading for the full year 2017. If we look at the fourth quarter, which is also currently under review, the aggregate GDP report was 31.209 trillion naira, according to this data from Bureau of Statistics, about 145 pages. That's quite heavy if you want to go through it. So we're just trimming this down for you to get the basics. Then you have, that is much higher in terms of nominal GDP, higher by 6.99% than 29.169 trillion reported the fourth quarter of 2016. That growth, however, is relatively lower compared to Q4 2016, 12.49%. Nominally, however, according to the MBS, 2017, Nigeria posted an annual growth rate of 12.05%, higher by 4.25% compared to 2016 nominal GDP growth of 7.80%. Then, of course, we're going to have the time through the rest of the hour to look at a bit of the sectoral performances. But just very quickly, before we get this conversation, get a first word from Bismarck Rewani at Financial Derivatives. The construction sector grew 4.14% in the quarter under review, full year 1.0%. Manufacturing under industry didn't really do so much. That's 0.14% in Q4, but full year 2017 was a negative 0.21%. Crop production under agriculture, 4.58% in Q4 2017, much better. Other manufacturing grew 2.84%. Full year 2017, a negative 6.99% under manufacturing, other manufacturing subsector. But the food and beverage under manufacturing grew 2.18% in Q4, and for full year, 2.35% positive. Bismarck Rewani is the CEO at Financial Derivatives Company and is joining us live for this conversation via Skype. It's Channel's Business News economic commentator. Good morning. It's good to have you, Mr. Rewani.
Good morning, Boston.
Give us your first word as far as these numbers are hot off the press.
This is good news. First of all, 3 quarters of consecutive growth, positive growth, is good news for the country. Secondly, it's happening. That means technically and practically we are out of recession and there's no relapse in economic activity. Thirdly, all of the 10 sectors that we look at here, 5 of them grew positively, 5 negatively, but the 5 that grew positively are the ones with great impact. So when you take the most important one of them all, it's transportation. Transportation went from 6.25 all the way to 16.57. That is significant. That's astronomical. Transportation is key because that's what moves people around and moves goods around. That is excellent news for Nigeria. Electricity also up from 11.46 to 16%. And oil was also up from down actually from 25.89 to 8.36. So in spite of the fact that oil came down, we had the impactful sectors, agriculture, construction, electricity and transportation all up. Right? So this is significant. This is great news. And it's actually, but we need to superimpose this against employment. Once you have impact on output, but impact on employment has not been fully felt. But this is actually good news for the economy and for the policymakers.
Yes, Mr. Awane, the fourth quarter numbers looks a very roaring performance over the previous quarters. But take us through the full year coming in at less than 1%.
Well, that is the bad news. Full year, you have 0.83%. Population growth of 2.8%. Therefore, in income per capita, that is the people's income, is actually going to be much lower by almost 2% year on year. That is the bad news. Also, the bad news is that the sectors that employ people the most, that is urban, the sectors that deal with urban unemployment are not that impactful. You talked about manufacturing, you talked about certain things, but the rural area, there's rural employment, the seeds, the anchor programs and agricultural programs are doing well. What do we need to do? This is the time to look at how to lower interest rates and increase credit to the SMEs and credit to the corporate sector. Because what we are seeing is that if you look at those 3 quarters where we had positive growth from 0.7 all the way to 1.95, in all of these quarters, we saw minimal, in fact, negative growth of credit to the private sector. We also saw that interest rate sensitive sectors are suffering because they have nothing to do. But the sectors that benefited from the intervention, that is agriculture, the ANCHORS program, the NISA program, all of those ones are beginning to show fruit. But you cannot run an economy based on subsidies and interventions. You have to actually adopt and accept a market-driven economic model, which is where Nigeria is going.